I really love reading the poem that I'm about to read to all of you. It is makes me feel a little sparkly inside because it's one of the first long-form poems I ever wrote, because I think most of you who might know my work probably like it because it's quick. And this is a bit more of a conversation. I was kind of sitting, the poem's called I Think About Love, because I actually was sitting home thinking about love, as I do. And you know, I was thinking about how, as a society and a world, we're not really conditioned to love love. We're kind of more conditioned to fear love. And what's a little scary is that maybe some of the things we are taught in life are love, is actually fear. So this is kind of a little long, loving love note to love, to barriers, to you all. So it's called I Think About Love. I think about love. I wrote on a sheet of paper the other day, love if you know how. How to love. A universe with no roadmaps, no gravity, no luxury of polarity. Up feeling so down, down feeling so down. I think about how we want it all. To be free and to be sheltered, to be the home and be in the home at the same time. I think about what it means to be free in love, to be free with love. I think about having the clarity to know when to stay and when to go. Have we not at all, at one point stayed too long? I think about staying too long. It reminds me of past loves, ghosts. As you love, you learn of ghosts. You are not haunted by the person, but by all of the ways you wish you would have been, the ways you wish you knew how to be. Growing up, they do not teach you all the things of love. They tell you love hurts, but they never tell you that there are some people and there are some things you never get over. I think about heartbreak, how hearts break, and that's how the magic gets in. The magic does, by the way, get in. It never stops getting in. But the other thing no one tells you when you are young is that hearts do not unbreak. They remain in pieces. With these pieces, you go on and you go on, until one day you meet someone who has pieces too. And together you make a new heart. The other thing no one tells you when you are young is that you meet the person who helps you make a new heart. And it is a gift of grace and beauty beyond imagination. I think about the gift of love, how we struggle to understand how to receive such a gift. Rumi said, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all of the barriers within yourself you have built up against it." I think about how we should get to know ourselves without barriers. I think about how we should get to know ourselves in a state that is not seeking. I think about how we are all chasing our dreams, meanwhile our dreams are chasing us. I think about dreams when I think about love. For one does not exist without the other, as the inhale is to the exhale. I think you should have good love. I think you should have your dreams. I think those things belong to you. Who else could they belong to more than you? You may have to fight for them. That I know for sure. And the biggest battle may be with yourself and on your own behalf. There's a lot of love in our battles. To live your life as a soldier fighting every day for who the hell you are is a strong life indeed. Be proud of that. When I think about being proud, I think about where I am from. And when I say where I am from, I mean a woman. As a girl, I was not sure how to be. I said things I did not mean. I said things I did not understand. As a woman, I still have moments of being outside of myself. But as a woman, I know now to ask what they mean, to try to understand, to not only be the help I need, but to ask for it as well. I think about needing, how a strange shame comes from needing another. How what's worse is that we try not to need anything from ourselves. How we do not ask what we need, so instead wonder who we are. Wonder who you are if you want to. But you know, you have always known. The choice is to face it or avoid it. Remembering that, to decide to really and truly get to know yourself is the bravest thing you could ever do. To decide on you. Be the moon if you want to, be the light bulb in the kitchen if that is what you want. All I ask is that you shine. For how to love can be a dark universe with no signals, where the lessons only come when the past is the past and you are sharing your ghost stories with your new heart. But the more I think about it, the more I see that the clearest route to bliss is to be alive while you are here, to be with yourself in a love that is so deep. The oceans get jealous, and even outer space wants to be inside. That is the type of love that shows us all how. For that is the starting point of which you can build a home that you can invite the whole world into. You know, it's funny because I get the question a lot of the time that's like, where does this come from? Or like, how did you decide to, you know, I'm a poet and it's 2016, that's not really like a thing, you know? And, but the thing is it's so funny because you kept saying the word better, And I remember a few years ago, you know, we're not raised, especially as women, where we value, well, especially as women in our world, where competition is so much more highly valued than care. Meaning that we grow up around each other and we're in community with each other and we're competing all the time. So our thought processes just support us competing with each other. And competition's ugly. It's not kind, it's not loving, it's not filled with peace, it's not filled with harmony. And it has its place in the world, but it shouldn't be our base. But we are raised with it being our base. Every single person is. And I remember a few years ago, and it wasn't even for a particular, because one thing was happening or another or whatever. I was just in my life in New York, and I remember thinking, like I think I was actually in my hometown in New Orleans, and I was sitting in the yard, and I was like, I could be better. I was like, I could just be better at being here. I was like, I could be better at the way I think about women and myself. I was like, I could be better at how I'm treating my, you know, being in my family. Like, what does it mean to really just be a better daughter and a better sibling? And how do I feel as I enter and exit relationships? And how do I feel when I'm within them? I'm like, I could be better at that. Mm-hmm. And I literally just decided to be better. And it didn't, but the interesting thing about deciding to be better from a place of care and not a place of competition is that I didn't put it against something else. I wasn't like, I'm gonna be better, so I'm gonna be like this. And so I wasn't constantly putting myself in competition with a standard that wasn't me, because I'm an individualized being. I can't say, okay, me better is me being, you know, it's like my friend over here who's doing XYZ, or, you know, that person in a magazine that's, you know, doing XYZ. It was like, better means like, I had to ask myself what makes me feel better. Mm-hmm. You know, I had to ask myself, like, you know what, when I'm in a relationship and I'm using like, when I'm using jealousy to ignite passion, like, does that make me feel good? Like, am I better than that? You know, if I'm like, dropping, because I think we've all, grown into how to be better in relationships. So I don't think I'm the only one who's ever done that. And, and I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. And it was funny because when you decide to be better, you are literally just breaking your entire life's worth of habits. So they just keep coming up, and that's why I say in my poems that it is a battle, because your habitual thinking and the way you've always done shit is always stalking you. Like, it is always just sitting there being like, you can't do that, you can't do that, you should do that, call him, send that text. That'll get it. You're like, no, like, that is not who I want to be. I'm better than that. Like my heart is wider than that. I'm my journey towards myself and my core is more determined than that. And so it's funny because it was really just based on that decision. And I know it sounds like silly because you're like, I just woke up and I decided. But it actually is that easy, because that is just the mantra in your head that you can have when all of that shit that does not serve you is constantly coming at you trying not to serve you. And so I think about that so much when people ask me, like, how do you and what do you? I'm like, honestly, I'm just like I can do better. And like when I go to sleep like that day, and I always forget. And the cool thing about better too, when you only apply it within yourself, is that when you go to sleep that night and you didn't do that great, you're like, okay, I'll do better tomorrow. There's something forgiving and healing in it too when it's only applied to you and your experience and your journey and what you're trying to do and contribute and be on our planet.
I think you made we were talking last night and Cleo said something really great, which was like when you said, when I decided to clean up my thinking and my language, I think that's like a really lovely way to, and I think, I can't remember what we were talking about, but sort of like when, you were doing the explanation about sort of if we were out and one of your boyfriends had a wandering eye and you were like, oh, look at him over there with that girl. And it's sort of like sloppy language. It's sort of like, well, that's a woman and she's probably fucking awesome. He's just got a wandering eye, not, and so we get into this sort of like habit of the language is a bit sort of sloppy and we don't sort of take care with that sort of stuff. And even that, when you clean up your language and your thinking, your behavior does just want to be better.
Well, and I think that when we're living in on such a global scale, our news is global, our economy is global, we're so informed of everything going on, which is really overwhelming. And a lot of the time I use that example because when you're trying to wonder what can you do because everything feels so macro that you just want to shrink and be like, there's nothing I can do, I'm just going to hide in here and like hopefully nothing happens in my neighborhood, I always say that, you can be a peacekeeper in this world, you can be a peacemaker in this world, you can be an example in this world, and it's micro steps to do that. Like, it is pure peacemaking to decide to not have negative thoughts towards people around you for no reason and to send people love no matter what. Like, it is pure peacemaking to decide to clean up your language and not be the one who walks into the room with a complaint first. That is peacemaking. That is becoming a peacemaker. That is changing our world, and it's not hard. That does it. I think a lot of the times when we're like, what are we gonna do? And everything's so fucked. And, how can I do anything? How can I help? And you're like, just start in the immediacy. Like, clean up your energy. Like everything about where we are and what we're doing. That is, if it's convoluted around you, it's because like you're convoluted. Like, clean it up. Like, if there's stuff you're not letting go, like, let go of it. Like, you get to decide what's in there. Like, you're the only person who says like, I'm holding on to this or I'm letting go of this. You're the only person who sits within your body and within your life experience and says, but this is the way it was always supposed to be. But like, that's not the way it is. And even if it was the way it is, it's not even working for you, let it go.
how do you make change when everything feels so fucking massive? You know, like how can we, as mini hustlers for a better world, how can we literally make change? And I think that is like the best piece of advice. Clean your energy up, clean your thinking up, clean your mind up, clean your language up, be kinder. Like my staff are always like, well, what can I do? You always seem like you're like trying to save the world. I'm like, go and pick up some fucking rubbish or something. Like just like, it's all in front of you. You know what I mean? Like if you feel like you don't quite know how your like places in the world, go and pick up some litter, go and volunteer at the city mission. Like there are a million things. And
call your mom.
Call your mom, be a better sister.
You know, be a better friend. You know, if you're the friend, when all your friends get together and there's like, you're the one who they're all going like, okay to stop being that person, you know? Like be the one that they're like, can't wait to get home and share their shame with you so that they can release it. Yeah. You know, be that person. You know, that is world changing. You know, when you do that, it inspires everyone to do that around you. And when you are just saying, yeah, I still love you. I love you no matter what. I love back no matter what. People start being like, oh yeah, I want to do that too. You know, no, they do. I see it. I've seen it in my life in every realm of every type of person and industry and community that I work within, from politics to the arts. I see that change. I see that being something that's contagious. I see people not wanting to be the whiner or the complainer because they're in the room with somebody who never whines and complains and they're full of joy.
I mean, that's quite a nice thing as well, like just touching on that, because I've never been one for like big groups of chicks. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, you know, I look at you and I'm like, oh, she got so many like chick friends. Wow, you know, it's like, that's awesome. But I would like that. I would like more chick friends. I mean, I don't know how to, I mean, like these girls are different. They're awesome. They're like hustlers, you know. But I mean, like, I don't know how to do that. Like, how do you do that? Like, because I find that women do, and you've already touched on that, and it's not sort of like a competitive thing, but it's more just like, sometimes chicks are hard work. Like sometimes they're like, you know what I mean? And so it is hard to celebrate. Like I'm hard fucking work, like seriously. But like how do you, I want to get to a stage where women they do celebrate each other more, and like maybe it's just me actually. There was,
I'm gonna go ahead and unsubscribe to chicks being hard work. You know, I think that, you know, in any, with any marginalized group, whether it's women, whether it's race, whether it's LGBTQ, it's not about addressing the group to try to make it equal to another group. It's about addressing the group to make that group whole and big and strong and amazing and full of love. It's not always about being like, separating it to being like chicks over here, men over here, and it's less work because when it's in comparison to this, and it's not about trying to get to where men are or how they communicate or how they have flow or how they have whatever. It's about as women being together and building what we know we need to have. You know, it's and that's across the board with every marginalized group on this planet. It's about saying like, I'm letting go, and that's also serving and being in the world from a place of care, not competition. Because when you're in a place of care, you're thinking about, what do I need? What does my community need? What do the female relationships in my world need to grow and flourish and thrive? Like you don't, you know, when we think about it with competition, we're like, yeah, so when you know, to catch up to these people or get that thing or da-da-da, like, no, you know. And for me, with my female friends, which I am so happy to have a room full of right now, I always, you know, always open up the space. If I have friends over for wine or we're sitting and we're talking, you know, I always open up the space and say that this is a sacred space, that this is a space where you can bring all of your shit to the table, and, you know, we'll sit here with all of it until it's digested, you know, and whatever you need from this, you'll get. And you can always come back tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And I think that when you place that type of intention on how you build your community around you, everything is magical and everyone's a goddess, because that's the intention you put on it. You're like, I'm not here to just be like, hi, what do you do? I'm like, are you okay? Like, what do you need? Like, I'm here for you. And do you need love? I've got plenty of it, you know? So I think that intention is everything in how we communicate and how we build our friendships and relationships and companionships in this world.
So I'm going to use a pretend friend, okay? She's actually not a pretend friend.
She's not a pretend friend.
No, actually, she's not me. But she works for quite a big advertising agency, and what she does, she absolutely loves. Like, she actually loves it. But the man that she works for is not the kindest man on the planet, and also doesn't sort of, you know, like, do what we all want to do. And that is like, and that's what I love about you, is that like it's not judgmental. Whoever I am, whoever Jules is, whoever Taryn is like, you're like, you celebrate everything about us, do you know what I mean? And you're like, you're perfectly you, it's awesome. But what if you have to work with someone who is a misogynistic, sort of nasty piece of work? How do you love him? How do you love him? Like, I'm like curious, because like I totally agree with you. Like, when you can like control a certain amount of your life, that's awesome. But what about in those environments where you can't control that and it takes up so much of your space or your time? Or
well, we're not meant to control it. You know, I can be loving and exude love and love the whole without trying to fix each individual person who may not want me to fix them, or thinking that that's what I'm here to do, you know? And I think that we, especially as women, being these caretaking, nurturing creatures on this planet, you have to also know when to say, you know, not my circus, not my monkey, you know? Like, that's not for, like, I also have to protect my energy, and, you know, so that I can keep getting the self-love part right, so that I can keep loving the whole, so that I can keep creating the loving energy. It's not, you know, I think that trying to control how someone speaks and acts and does and whatever, like, that's not for me to do. You know, I can set the example, and I can also draw the boundaries of being like, you know, I have a friend of mine in my life who just a friend. But, you know, I've known people, and actually I know a lot of people who do this, where they're like, you know, their insecurities come out in like negative comments about other women and other things. And I can't attack them every time they're gonna, you know, talk about like a celebrity's ex, whatever, you know? I'm like, I don't even like I don't think about women's qualities and start trying to understand why this like cheekbone makes more sense than this chin or something, you know? That's just not what I'm in the business of doing. So, but that exists, you know, that is how a lot of people speak, and that's also how a lot of people's insecurities manifest themselves. And so for me, I just don't contribute to that conversation. I'm not gonna attack you every time you do it, because I also don't think that's gonna help you. But after a while, you'll see also that people, when you raise your energy frequency to a certain place, like, most of the time people want to match it because they're trying to communicate with you. And if they feel like you're not receiving them and they can't talk to you, and you're kind of like, oh, that's nice, whenever they're saying whatever they're saying that's not on the energy frequency that you're on, they're gonna naturally at some point raise. Like, it may not be in front of you in the controlled moment that you want it to be, but if they really want to communicate with you on the deeper levels, they will. Because I have so many friends who just don't talk that way around me, because they know that I'm not going to have an intimate, vulnerable, like, you know. You've
unsubscribed.
Yeah, I'm like, I've unsubscribed. I'm like, no, like, I don't, you know, like, don't you think? And I was like, no, I don't. I gotta go. You know? And I don't judge them for it, but it's just, you know, that is what it is for them. And I've actually watched the behavior dwindle in people in my life who do that, because I'm just like, that's not, you know, like, if you want to get together and like talk about somebody else or be negative, I'm like, I don't really, no, you know.
Unsubscribe, that's good. Question.
Hi, I just wanted to elaborate on your term of modern feminism. Like, I love that. I like that it's an ever-developing thing and it's a constant changing thing. Yeah, and sort of on your comment of chicks are hard work.
That's just my comment.
No, it's relevant. I find it really difficult. I know a lot of really intelligent and clever women who also really strongly believe that they don't need feminism and they wouldn't agree with the term feminism, and they kind of resent the idea of it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like that too.
Yeah, so, and it's like in your idea of like loving them and accepting them, no, I can't. It's something that I don't know, and it's something that I feel really passionate about. I don't know how to explain to these women that they are where they are because of feminism and that it should be important to them.
Yeah.
Like how would you go about that?
Well, you know, it's interesting because I run into that a lot in my life, and for me, I express where I am, and that's a lot of the time the best you can do, because when you start shooting all over people, they don't usually respond well, you know? And I think that for me, in those types of conversations, I say things like, well, you know, the world has such a long place to go with the poor that just keep getting poorer, and without us all stepping to the table to do what we can, you know, I just fear that those people get more and more left out. And so for me, you know, to wave my feminism flag helps me to make sure I'm doing my part to rein people in, so that because it's not, you know, feminism is a funny issue because, or not issue, it's a funny thing because we speak about it a lot in terms of just certain groups of people, you know, being equal. You know, we'll talk about it as far as the, you know, like the gender pay gap is a perfect example, right? When we talk about the gender pay gap, we're like, okay, women are making, you know, 9 or 3 cents to the man's dollar, but and this is also the reason why whenever someone asks me about the future of feminism, I always say there's no future of feminism without a future of anti-racism and, you know, understanding classism and, you know, the rights of all marginalized groups. Because when you start breaking down the gender pay gap, if you actually really look at it, it's white females at 79 cents to the white male dollar. And when you break that down further, it's by race, it's something like 63 or 8 or something cents for African American women to that white male dollar, and something like 56 cents to a Hispanic person, to Latino women, to the white male dollar. So if you can't see that there's also within that alone race and you know, that doesn't have to do with that gap actually being huge. So we have to take care of all and really understand all of the issues. And so I think that for me, sometimes I zoom out on that feminism talk a little bit more, and I'm like, I just don't want poor people to keep getting more poor. And so that's where I stand in wanting to create a more equal and loving world and economy and state of being, you know? And I think a lot of the time that's helpful, but I think it's like I was saying before with your friends or whatever, you're like, I'm not gonna shit all over you. Like, you know, as intelligent as you are, like there's obviously a lot of baggage you must have associated with the word feminism, and maybe that baggage isn't for me to unpack. But what I can do is always be an example of how much I love standing for those things and how much integrity I hold in it and how angry it does not make me, and how you know, it does fill my life and bring me so much joy to get up and fight that good fight every day.